Hello there, welcome to episode 3 of the War Thunder Tech Tree Guide Soviet Edition. Before we get started, I would recommend that you watch the first 2 episodes if you haven't. I've linked them down below. We have quite a few vehicles to cover today, so let's get into it. This battle rating range brings us to the middle of the tech tree. The armor effectiveness of medium tanks is diminished compared to earlier ranks, and the main guns come in a variety of large calibers. This battle rating range also is the domain of some of the most effective Soviet heavy tanks. Our first vehicle today is the last T-34 armed with an F-34 cannon, the T-34E STZ. The STZ has the thickest front plate of all the T-34s, with 60mm compared to 45mm. This increased protection allows the STZ to be slightly more aggressive when brawling compared to earlier T-34s. Next we have the T-34-57. The T-34-57 has the basic T-34 chassis and turret, but is armed with a 57mm ZIS-4 anti-tank gun. This gun has better penetration rates than the F-34. This allows the T-34-57 to be effective in an up tier, though this comes at the cost of one-shot potential, as the 57mm is a relatively small caliber. Since the T-34-57 is on a basic chassis and has the same turret as earlier T-34s, the armor is less effective at this higher battle rating. It's still an effective brawler due to the fast turret reverse and high rate of fire. However, the armor is lacking, and one must take more care when considering their position. Next up, we get the T-34-85 D5T. This version of the T-34 has an improved turret and an 85mm D5T main gun. The D5T sacrifices a bit of penetration compared to the 57mm, but the larger 85mm shell almost guarantees a one-shot kill. The hull armor is still the same 45mm, however, so taking a hit is no longer an option. The KV-1S is the first heavy tank we will look at today. The KV-1S has a better turret and main gun compared to its predecessor, the KV-1L11, covered in episode 2, but sacrifices 15mm of side armor to increase its mobility. The decrease in side armor can make finding the best angle for the hull more difficult. The main gun is practically the same as the T-34's F-34 gun. It is still a heavy tank and should be used to lead the charge, just don't go full Leroy Jenkins. Next up, we have my favourite version of the KV tanks, the KV-1 ZIS-5. This KV has the best armor of all KV tanks in the Soviet tech tree. The armor is so good that it can even withstand the Tiger's 88mm if angled correctly. The 76mm ZIS-5 main gun is its only shortcoming. Having identical performance to the T-34's F-34, it does occasionally come up against some opponents that it can't penetrate frontally. The next heavy tank is the KV-85. The KV-85 is essentially a KV-1S, but with a heavier turret and armed with an 85mm D5T. The main advantage of this tank is the 85mm. The armor is lackluster at best, so you have to be pretty careful about where you position this tank. The final heavy tank we will look at today is the IS-1. The IS-1 is a significant step up from the KV tanks. Its turret is identical to the KV-85's, but its hull is a new, much more effective design. This is the first Soviet heavy tank that is truly capable of going toe-to-toe with the Tiger. The armor is not without weaknesses, so you can't drive this tank out in the open and expect to survive every hit. But the armor is strong enough to allow you to take more risks than a medium or light tank. The first light tank in this battle rating range is in fact not a light tank at all, but a tank destroyer, the ASU-57. It's probably the smallest vehicle in the Soviet tech tree. It is armed with a 57mm CH-51M main gun. This gun has a better penetration rates than other 57mm in the tech tree, but it is still limited by the one-hit kill potential due to its small size. The ASU-57 is one of the few tank destroyers that has access to the scouting ability that is normally limited to light tanks. This vehicle was very easy to hide due to its small size. Our last light tank today is the PT-76B. The PT-76B is armed with a 76mm D56 TS cannon, which is equipped with a two-plane stabilizer, which allows for accurate fire on the move. Talking about movement, the mobility of the PT-76 is okay, not much faster than the medium tank at its same battle rating. It is amphibious, however, which can in some situations allow you to get into unexpected positions. Being a light tank, its armor is very lightweight, barely able to stop 50 cal MGs, let alone a proper cannon. Use the PT-76 as a flanking and scouting vehicle. This battle rating bracket has a large number of tank destroyers, many of them armed with large caliber guns. To start off with, we have the Su-85. The Su-85 combines the mobility of a T-34 with an 85mm D5S made gun in a forward-firing mount. This gun is the second most powerful gun available to a Soviet player at battle rating 4.3, second only to the 152mm ML-20S on the Su-152. The Su-152's main advantage is its main gun, able to destroy any enemy it faces with a single shot regardless of the ammunition used. Its main downside is that the gun is in a fixed forward mount and it's slow, being on a KV chassis. Following the Su-152 is the ISU-152. The ISU-152 has the same 152mm ML-20S as its predecessor, but has a roof-mounted Dushka, more armor, and access to a heat round that can penetrate Tiger IIs frontally. Next up is the 5.3 Su-85M. This is just an up-armored Su-85. Personally, I find that the increase in armor is not worth the increase in battle rating. Just skip this one and use the next tank destroyer at 5.3. The last tank destroyer in this battle rating range is the ISU-122. The ISU-122 is essentially an ISU-152, but with the 152mm swapped with a 122mm A-19 cannon. The A-19 doesn't have access to a heat round, but its armor-piercing high explosive and armor-piercing high explosive ballistic cap has a much higher penetration rate compared with the 152mm versions of those rounds. The 122mm also has a slightly higher rate of fire. All the tank destroyers have pretty much the same playstyles. Ambush. Our only SP AAG at this BR is the ZSU-37. The ZSU-37 has slightly more armor compared to earlier Soviet SP AAGs and is armed with the 61K 37mm anti-aircraft gun, which has enough high explosive to knock out a plane in one hit. This is what I think is the best research path, though feel free to follow your own path that might suit your playstyle better. These are my preferred lineups, but do your own experimenting, find what you like. There are lots of ways these lineups can be built at this battle rating range. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next episode of the War Thunder Tech Tree Guide Soviet Edition, where I will cover the battle rating range of 5.7 to 7.0 in the Soviet Tech Tree. Have a good one, and I'll see you next time.